right, good evening. How's everybody doing today? Glad everybody can make it. Really appreciate you coming out today for this celebration of Steve Berlin. This time last fall he transitioned to be with the Lord, and there was a lot of tears, a lot of sadness, but now I think it's time that we rejoice, we celebrate, we heal, and tell a lot of stories. So I have to kind of warn somebody about some of these stories now. They might get a little out of hand, all right? But y'all know me, God is here. God is always here, and God is always present in my life. And I would like to open up this celebration today with a prayer, okay? Let us pray, bow our heads. First, I want to give honor to God. I want to thank you for bringing us on this journey. I want you to continue to bless everyone under the sound of my voice, continue to take care of us, continue to guide us. I know transition sometimes can be tough when we lose a loved one, but we want to celebrate today. God wants you to have your way on all the speakers today. Let them say what they feel on their heart. Let us have a good celebration. Let us have a good time. I want to wish everybody traveling grace back to their prospective homes, and continue to take care of us, God. Continue to guide us, continue to bless us. In your heavenly name I pray, amen. All right, now I hope do I have any Carolina fans out here? I don't know. Okay, all right. But y'all know how, Clemson people, when we get together, we tend to do some nice things, and so we also tend to have a good time, all right? So, if you want to stand up and clap, that's fine. That's how we get this thing going here. There you go. All right. Again, my name is William Devane. I was a teammate of Burr. You're going to hear me refer to him as Burr, and you're going to probably hear some of these guys refer to him as some other nicknames. So we had us football players, we tend to have a lot of nicknames. So I played football with Burr for 3 years. So we want to celebrate him today. We want to celebrate him as our brother. We want to celebrate him as a daddy. He's a daddy. We want to celebrate him as an uncle, a husband, co-worker, etc. So a lot of you have different relationships with Steve, and that's what we want to celebrate today, all right? My dad taught me a long, long time ago, whenever you speak in public, the first thing you got to thank everybody, okay? Because I don't want to step on anybody's toes to forget their names, but if you had anything to do with putting this together today, I want to say thank you to all of you. And then, of course, there's a few names I have to mention as we go on today. First, Rusty Burns. He's the Anderson County administrator. He allows us to use this facility. Now, I don't know if many of you have been out here to this amphitheater before. It's a pretty nice little place right here. It's nice. I'll thank him and some of his staff, Seth Ridley and Adrian Cole. I want to thank them. They helped me secure this spot for today, so I want to thank them, appreciate them. Miss Wanda Johnson, I'm going to tell how long I've known Wanda. I've known Wanda a long time. If you look at the program, you can see she's going to be doing some singing. Now, Wanda, some people can sing, Wanda can sing. Okay, so if you don't move when Wanda's singing, there's something wrong. You better check your pulse or something there. We appreciate Wanda. Greg Gaines, the guy back here working the video, he's responsible for the program you have. And I told Carrie and Beth I had a few surprises. They we're going to put this on video. So sometime before you leave the day, if you want to give a personal message to the family, you can walk up to Greg and he can video you a message and you add it to the video if you don't want to come up here and speak. So some people are shy about speaking in public. So as you probably guess, I'm not too shy. So I want to thank Greg for bringing this to light, for what we're doing today. Appreciate him. I want to thank all the families of Burr that are represented today. And you'll hear from Beth, his sister, a representative. I think Beth is, yeah. Beth said she might be able to speak. She might be able to hold it together good. And then Carrie, his widow, probably hear from her today. So, and I want to thank all the speakers that come out today and kind of fellowship with us. Okay. And of course, last but not least, I got to thank my beautiful wife. My two daughters are here in attendance with me. My beautiful wife, Tish. Hey, baby, how you doing? She my dark and lovely. Now that's young guys. Y'all got to Google Barry White. That's that Barry White voice. Y'all young guys don't know nothing about that Barry White, man. You got to Google that there. Well, I want to thank her for coming out and our two daughters here today. So we're just going to celebrate, have a great time. Praise God and laugh a lot and smile a lot and just have a good time. So we're going to follow along with the program. There's a couple of people that didn't make it today. They had some conflicts, but that's fine. But we're going to move on with what we got. All right. Now, the first person I want to bring up, like I told you, some people can sing. Some people really can sing. Some people do all right, behind the microphone. Now, this lady, she can sing. She can sing. I've known Wanda since 1980. 80. All right. I got a few stories about Wanda, but I ain't going to talk about that. But she's going to bring us some inspirational songs here. First, she's going to sing one today and then come back later on the program. So please put your hands together for Miss Wanda Johnson.
I am not good with modern tech, and I am starting this from my phone. So if something goes Harry Carey, I'm just going to start singing a cappella. I don't know what to tell you. There's revival, and it's spreading like a wildfire in my heart. Sunday morning, hallelujah, and it's lasting all week long. Can you feel it? Can you hear it? It's the rhythm of a gospel song. Oh, once you choose it, you can't lose it. There ain't nobody gonna steal my joy. I got an old church choir singing in my soul. I got a sweet salvation and it's beautiful. I got a heart overflowing 'cause I've been restored. There ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. No, there ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. When the valleys that I wander turn to mountains that I can't climb. Oh, you are with me, you never leave me. Oh, there ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. I got an old church choir singing in my soul. I got a sweet salvation and it's beautiful. I got a heart overflowing and I've been restored. There ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. No, there ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. Oh, 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 yeah. Yeah. Clap your hands and stomp your feet till you feel that glory beat, 'cause that's all you'll ever need. Yeah. till you find that gospel beat, 'cause it's all you'll ever need. It's all you'll ever need. I've got an old church choir in my soul. I got a sweet salvation and it's beautiful. I got an old church choir singing in my soul. I got a sweet salvation and it's beautiful. I got a heart overflowing 'cause I've been restored. There ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. No, there ain't nothing gonna steal my joy. There ain't nothing gonna steal my joy.
What I told y'all. I saw some of you patting your feet and clapping your hands. I told you. That woman can sing, man. I'm telling you, man. And we're going to hear another one from her here in a little bit, a little later. So thank you, Wanda, for that. Appreciate that. Now, since I have the microphone, I think I'm gonna give out the first stories. Me and Coach Ford were talking about some stories back here, and I know Chuck and Reed got a few of them, but I think I'm gonna take the initiative and tell the first story. When I first met Burr back in '81. Now, if you look at the program, there's actual picture of how he looked back in '81. Now imagine a 6'5" cat with an afro about that big, curly afro, glasses about that thick, okay? There's a picture of him right there with that suit. That's exactly how he looked in 1980, 81. All right, that's when I first met him. Now the one thing, I don't know if most of you knew Burr that well. One thing I could tell you about Burr was colorblind. Not that he couldn't see like red and green or anything like that, you know. But he was colorblind that he really didn't care what color of person you were. He was the same with everybody, all right? Hell, we thought he was black when he was hanging out with us. Okay? He had a little swag to him. Now, Chuck and Reed gonna probably laugh at this, but I got to do this. Now he had his own dance. All right, and he will listen to a song that come on, and this is the song. Y'all recognize that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, baby. That's I'll Be Sure. All right, now Burr's dance was this. All he would do, he would stand in the corner and do this. Girl. That's all he would do. He's 6'5" with afro, glasses that thick, just standing there doing this. I'll Be Sure. He loves some I'll Be Sure. And young people, y'all have to Google him too. I'll Be Sure. I'll Be Sure. That's all he would do. Okay, that was a Berlin dance. I guess that we call that the Berlin dance. All right. I got time for one more story before I turn it over to Coach Ford. Clay, you all right, man?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then Clay kind of know where I'm going with this one. All right. Now, Devin was Steve's first born son, so Devin was a little bitty old something, right? Clay was a baby. Clay was a little baby, so I used to go over, Burr's house and we chill and, watch a little TV. Burr liked to walk around shorts and with his shirt off. He thought he looked good. He had pretty good body. He was built pretty good. So we sitting there. I can't even get through this story. So we were sitting there chilling. So Clay was asleep. So Burr decided to pick up Clay. And we were sitting there watching a little TV. So he lays Clay across his chest. So I said, Burr, I said, is Mary nursing the baby? He looked at me, he said, yeah. I said, Burr, don't you think you need to put a shirt on, man? He said, Devo, no, I'm all right. Okay. I said, all right, okay, all right. So, Clay started moving around a little bit. So in my mind, I'm thinking, y'all kind of figure out what's about to happen. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I said, dude, you better put a towel or something on. So I said, I'm going to try it one more time. I said, Burr, you sure you don't want to put a towel or shirt on? By the time he said no, Clay woke up, he saw that nipple, and he clamped down on that thing. And Burr swing like a little girl. I said, man, I told you to put a shirt on. So the moral of that story, gentlemen, when you holding a baby and that baby mama nursing that baby, do not hold that baby without a shirt on. That baby gonna wake up and think it's dinner time. All right, I'm gonna leave that one alone. Clay, I ain't gonna go there, Clay. Clay, that's my boy. All right, the first speaker of the day, and he really needs no introduction. He's the former head coach of Clemson University, the first national championship. Now, yeah. Give him a hand on that one. Now, as he said before, Dabo's doing some good things. Don't want to. That's all right. But like he said, you don't ever forget your first girl, man. That's the first one is always the best one. So, Coach Ford recruited all of us, brought us in, taught us a lot about life, taught us a lot about being young men. Now, he worked the hell out of us, now, I'll tell you that now. But he taught us a lot about being young men, taught me about a lot about coaching, because I was a coach back in Georgia for a long time, so learned a lot from him. So I really appreciate him coming out just to say a few words to us today. And again, without further ado, I want to introduce Danny Ford.
Well, thank you. I've been on the tractor all day, so I'm a little stiff. And it's a wonder that I survived Clemson, because I didn't know near what went on that I know today. Because every time I get with these young people who I used to call kids, and they're not kids anymore, but I hear stories that I just can't believe happened under my watch, because I don't see how they had time to play football, as much trouble as they were always in. And to the Berlin family and everyone that's associated with him, the people that work with him that are here, and the family of Kerry and Devin and Clay and Chase and Megan and Chelsea, is that correct? And then Steve's sister, Beth, came all the way down from Pennsylvania, some kids, I believe, with her, and her husband, but we won't introduce him because he's got a Pitt shirt on. And there he is right there. You should be on the back row, young man, not the front row. But anyway, the sad part about it is I guess when these guys came in, I was something like 33 years old, and they were like 17, 18, 19 years old coming to school, and didn't ever think that we would be in our 70s and 50s and 60s, and so we never really talked much about we always thought we'd always see each other forever and ever and ever, and that's one thing we are losing a lot of our young people now. There's Tracy Johnson's got a memorial tonight in Atlanta, and one tomorrow in Atlanta also, and we lost another one of our alumni today, and Myrtle Beach, and just every day it's something, but it's something that we never were prepared for when we were 31 and 33 and 34 years old and all this kind of thing. But thank God that we had them when they were young, because so the things that I can tell about Steve, and I don't want to, Steve, William said he was colorblind. He had to be. There wasn't but two of them, white kids on defense that year. And on the defensive line, it was he and Dan Benish and a couple of walk-ons. And Steve tried to dress and act and do everything like a black person. He had his afro, and I can remember that old hat he used to wear. And the things that I remember about him, he was a regular on our 6 o'clock study hall group. That was the people that had to run the stadiums once a week at 6 o'clock because they had done something wrong. And I've been fishing with Reed and his company a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times the last 3 or 4 years. And when you drive to New Orleans and sit in the car and listen to the stories, I mean, it's just amazing. And I said, well, Steve, Reed, tell me about the M&Ms, and remind me a little bit because I don't quite remember it. But he and Steve and some of the linemen were in the, I guess it was like what was it, Reed? It was a bookstore at Clemson. And Berlin comes out and he's got his pants have swelled tremendously. And he's walking out, and the lady grabs a hold of him and makes him undo his pants, and he's got a pound of M&Ms. Not just a few, but a pound that he's going to try to walk out with. So they called me, and I don't remember, but I'm sure this happened. They called me, and it was with the university bookstore, so I went over there, and I asked the lady how much the M&Ms were, and we paid her, and I told Steve, I said, I'll see you at 6 o'clock at the stadium. So I don't know if he ever got over them M&Ms or not. I don't never know if he liked M&Ms after that, but we sure punished him for that. But his daddy, and I'm so sorry that Larry Vanderhayden isn't here, one of our coaches that recruited Steve. Steve's father, which probably many of you don't know, has passed, but he went to Iowa State with Vanderhayden. They were like teammates. And then he was like the trainer for the Pittsburgh Steelers for like 30, how many years? 30-something years. 30-something years he was the head trainer. And he and Larry Vanderhayden were teammates. So when Larry went to Pittsburgh, and I can remember, we always competed real hard against each other recruiting. Our coaches did, because they would get on to each other a little bit if he wasn't doing good in recruiting. And Vanderhayden had a built-in connection that he was a teammate with Steve's father back then. And so we were so glad to have him. But he did a great job for us. He was an outstanding young man, the good player, hard-nosed kid, tough, did everything we asked him to do. Never any serious problems, just kid problems, just young kid problems that all of us do. So we really appreciate him. But the most proudest thing I am of Steve is how he did later in his life. I really have a lot of respect for what he did with the family and the people he worked with. I saw some last week, and they talked about working with him and what kind of gentleman he was and everything else. So I am so glad I had the honor of knowing Steve, and I appreciate him, appreciate the family. Thank all y'all for coming. And now these other guys will be a lot worse than I am. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach Ford. Really appreciate you taking the time coming out and hanging out with us today. Definitely appreciate that. If you look on your program, we're going to kind of follow along with us listed. Two of the speakers have some conflicts today, Dwayne Walker and Keith Williams, so they won't be making today. So today I got Chuck Richardson and Reed Engel will come up and share some things with you about Burr. Now me and Chuck came in together, right? Oh, well, me, Chuck, and Reed. Yeah, all three of us came into Clemson together in 1980. We've known each other since then, been great friends. And that's one thing, Coach Ford just alluded to that. When you play football at a university, you get lifelong friends. They're not just guys you know and then you pass along and don't ever talk to them and don't ever know them. But these guys, like I said, these guys are my brothers. We can go 5 years without speaking and then pick up the phone, just like we just talked yesterday. So these guys, you know, we all are brothers, and it's a brotherhood. And as I said, thank Coach Ford for not telling too many stories about some of the things we got into. Yeah, I know. All I say is thank God we didn't have internet and Facebook and all that stuff back then. Oh Lord. Yeah, I was saying half the defense would have probably been off the team or something there. I don't know. All right. But again, appreciate these guys. First, we're going to hear from Chuck Richardson, and then we'll hear from Reed Engel. Then I'll come back up and we're going to get another inspirational song from Miss Wanda Johnson. So, Chuck, come on up, man.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chuck Richardson. I came in the class of '80. I was a linebacker, and I met Steve Berlin his freshman year when he came in from Pittsburgh. But you know, coming from the background in Pittsburgh, Steve grew up. Steve would always tell me he grew up around Mean Joe Green. A lot of the NFL players. So Steve brought a lot of culture down here to the South. So he had that swag where, he pretty much fit in. I mean, we would go out, to a club and hang out, and he just blend in. And one year we roomed together during the summer. So it was a Sunday morning. So we got up, went to work out. And Steve was like, man, I'm hungry, man. I want to do some Southern food. And I'm like, cool. So, I want to do some Italian food. So he claimed that was his dish, right? So he put together a little taco salad that he made at home. It was ground beef, burrito, crunched up, lettuce, tomato. And it looked kind of funky and gushy a little bit. And then I'm like, I don't know if I want to eat that. So, he said, well, why don't you put together yours? So I picked up the phone and I called my grandmother back in North Carolina. And I said, Grandma, I got a roommate and he want to eat some Southern food. So she said, baby, what you cook? I said, I went and got a roast. I went and got macaroni cheese, collard green, and made some cornbread. So she guided me through the whole thing, right? So we got down to the cornbread. I made the cornbread. Took the black skillet. So anybody that's from the South know what them real black skillets you put in the stove. So I was telling Steve, I said, so I'm gonna go ahead and melt the grease, put the black skillet in the stove, and then later on I'll just pour, the cornbread mix in. So after everything was done, I poured it in. I said, Steve, I think the cornbread about ready, man. You wanna pull it out? So I'm not looking. I had my back turned. That joker real special. He opened the stove and he grabbed this black skillet with his bare hands. And when I turned around, I looked, I'm like, dude, what you doing, man? And his face was as red as his hand. And I'm like, bruh, that's a black skillet. I said, that thing get extra hot. And I guess his hand was like bruised for probably blistered for about 2 weeks from that. And every time I saw him, we would always talk about that. But no, Burrow was my boy. That's what I call him. And you know, when the kids were born, my kids were born, you know, we pretty much stayed in contact. You know, my boys went off. My oldest son came here to play at Clemson. Then I had a baby boy that actually played Georgia Southern, and so we would always stay in contact. You know, he would always ask me, you know, how's his progress? You know, how they're doing? Hey, Chuck, they're gonna be okay, man. Don't worry about it. But you know, when I say a brother, he was probably one of the coolest dudes. Like Coach Ford said, it wasn't very many on the defense, but he blended right in because he was a Howard Long type player because that was his idol. And, you know, he would always talk about, hey, you know, I'm going to do the same thing in the NFL, Howard Long. But, you know, on Saturday, Steve wasn't an outgoing guy, but, you know, not unless if he knew you. But Steve he was real laid back and the coolest guy on Saturdays. I'm talking about when he lined up. And, you know, when I made the calls and he lined up in front of me, I mean, he played soundly, but all of his skill sets came out through every play. He never complained. You know, even, you know, when he had minor injuries, you know, he would always talk to his dad, Ralph, and, you know, call him and kind of just check on him, and he'll kind of just guide him through. And, you know, he was just that type of guy. You know, got along with anybody. I introduced him to my family, my brothers. My father would always ask about him. But Steve was he was a good-hearted guy. He was a good-hearted guy, very fun to be around all the time. Coach Ford, right now, I got some stories to tell, but I won't do that because I don't think it'll be cool if I do. But I can remember one time we went to Tokyo. We went to play with Tokyo, Japan, and it was Berlin and two other players, Kenny Danforth, Rodney Quick, and somehow they went out to campus to party. And something happened where one of the guys, and Steve was inside the house, and one of the other guys reached in this other guy's car and took something out of the car, so they followed him back to the dormitory. And so I think Willie Underwood may have been the AD at the time. So we had a team meeting when we got back from Tokyo, and Coach Ford was like, okay, guys, we had some incidents here, so I'm going to make every last one of them get up and tell his story. So I think Burrow stood up first. Instead of him telling his part, he started pointing at Danforth and Quick. He was like, I didn't have any part with that. That was Danforth and was Quick. And I think Coach Ford ended up kicking him out of the, you know, because Coach Ford's thing was to run the heck out of you. And then his thing was to take your meal ticket. So it was a sin not to eat with us, and he would punish you by going eating with the regular students. And, you know, it was kind of sad because, you know, I would see Burrow walk over, man. You know, everybody be walking with the cafeteria, and then we go downstairs, and he upstairs. And I'm like, bruh. I said, man, how you going to tell your parents this? He said, I'm going to just have to break it off to him. But great guy, real good guy. You know, like I said, he was a brother from another mother. You know, he was my man. I guess the last time I spoke with Steve was maybe in October of last year. And I was coming up to a game, and, you know, I was telling him some situations, some things, you know, that we were going to do when we come up to the game. And that was the last time I spoke with him. But he's in a better place. His spirit is going to always be in our heart. You know, you guys, you know, he was a great dude. He's a great husband, great father, great brother. I mean, you couldn't ask for any more. So thank everybody for coming out, celebrating Steve Berlin, because he's still in our hearts, and he's still in our spirit, and he's still with us. So y'all have a great day.
All right, Reed. Scoogie.
I was going to start off.
Gugmo.
If you don't know what that means, how did that even start?
I don't know.
I was going to say, I've thought about a lot of things before I came here. One thing before I get started, I want to say that guy out there with that white hat named Jeff Litton, He ought to be up here telling some stories because he was thick as thieves with that Steve Berlin. Thick as thieves with Steve Berlin. He's got all the stories, the ones you can't tell. What I was going to say is when Steve first got to Clemson, I got here in '80 with William and Chucky, and Steve came in '81. And for some reason, somebody called him Skoogmo or Skoogie or something. And that, I'm telling you, over the years, that has morphed into so many goofy things. I mean, I would literally call Steve, and my message would be,
Googmo.
and I would hang up. And then if he called me back, he'd do the same thing, and we'd be Googmoing back and forth on the. I know that's childish, but it's just something that brings joy to my heart to think about. One of the stories that always makes me laugh is he worked for a beer company in the summer, one summer when he went back home to Pittsburgh. And what he did is he drove the truck around and he delivered kegs of beer, full kegs of beer that are heavy. And so somehow at this one stop, a keg slid as he had his hand on another keg, and it smashed his finger. So I've never seen such a hideous wound. It was so bad. And he came back to Clemson in summer school, and it was gray, like his whole middle finger. It was his middle finger. And that's significant in the story, so I'll get to that in a minute. And so, you remember that? And so when we see him, he's got some bandages on there and all that kind of thing, and we're like, hey man, what happened to your finger? It's like, oh, I crushed it when I was working at Stroh's Brewery or something. Like, oh, let's see it. We wanted to see it. And so he's the only one that can tell this story and do it justice, because I still laugh my head off every time I think about it. So what happened was he smashes his finger, and he said the thing was throbbing. He's like, and it split it open too. And so all he could think about, it split it open on the inside, but not on the top. So his plan was to drive down to the stadium where his dad was at and get him to drill a hole in his fingernail and squeeze all that blood out and relieve the pressure. So he's got this big old truck, and it's a stick shift. And so he's telling us what he's doing. He goes, I had to suck it up when I was driving through the traffic in Pittsburgh when I was shifting. But when I got through shifting and got up into fifth gear, I was riding down the road like this, driving, because I had to hold it up because it was throbbing. And if he gets, y'all know him. Him telling this story, it's hysterical. So he gets down there and, Ralph drills it and gets all the blood out and everything. And this is like 2 or 3 weeks later when we see it. I don't know what that thing looked like when he first did it. But anyway, that's one funny story that I remember about Steve. And a lot of the stories are just, like Coach Ford said, young kids doing dumb stuff and stealing M&Ms and among other things. And I'm not going to share a whole bunch of those stories, but I would like to say this. I called William. So I talked to Steve about, I don't know, a month or 2 months before he got really sick. And just, hey, how's it going? How's your family? Blah, 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 catching up. How's your health? We're getting older, and how's your joints? How's your heart? How's all that? In typical Burr fashion, oh, I'm good. I got a couple of challenges, but nothing I can't handle. Well, he didn't share with me how sick he was, which is normal for him, not to say anything. And so somehow I found out that he was at the hospital and he wasn't doing good at all. And I called Big D and I said, hey, how's Steve with the Lord? How's he with his salvation? And William said, I think he's good. And so anyway, I wondered. I wasn't sure because I wanted to drive up, but I didn't think I would be let in the room, so I didn't. So I called Reggie Pleasant, if you know him. I said, man, you need to go over and pray with Steve, and he couldn't do it. He was out of town. And come to find out, Mick Cavanaugh, Carrie's brother, is a pastor, and he was up here, and he went in the room, and he actually, talked with Steve and prayed with Steve. And I talked to him this past week, and he told me this story about what Steve, was their communication during that time, during his last few minutes, or whenever it was. I think it was the day that he passed. But anyway, it just brought joy to my heart that he was, that he had given his life to Jesus as his Savior. And so one of the things I wanted to do while I was up here, and I didn't come here to preach to anybody, but I am going to read this. Because last Sunday in church, our pastor taught in 2 Thessalonians. And is anybody familiar with 2 Thessalonians and what Paul's writing about in that book? Well, let me tell you. So, and this is exactly what Devo said and what Chucky said and what Coach Ford said about Steve being colorblind, which I'm going to tell one more story about him being colorblind after this. So I know Steve's passed at this point. This was last Sunday. And I'm sitting in church thinking about him. And so this is verse 3 in chapter 1 of 2 Thessalonians, and it says, "We ought always to give thanks to God for you, brothers, as it is right, because your faith is growing abundantly, and the love of every one of you for one another is increasing." And so if you read a commentary on that verse right there, they were being persecuted by people that weren't Christians. And their love for each other was growing and growing and growing. It didn't matter where they were from. It didn't matter what color their skin was. But that just hit me, and I thought, that's exactly how Steve was. Steve and I used to go to parties in Devo's room.
Hey, now hold up, man.
They were good parties. We played checkers.
Have milk and cookies.
We had milk and cookies. But anyway, the point is, you were in there.
What were you drinking?
No, we was drinking milk.
Cookies.
So the point of me telling that is so Steve would come out, "Hey man, Dee's having a party, man, down in his room. Let's go." And we'd walk in there, and I consider myself somewhat colorblind, not as colorblind as Steve is, but we'd walk in there and welcome with open arms. We're the only two white dudes in there, Steve and I. "Get on in here and have you some milk and cookies, you two," and we'd stay in there, and we'd, that music, that Albee, whatever you just played, we're just, showing our lack of rhythm in there in the room and having a good old time. And but so when we studied this last Sunday, and I combined with me thinking about Steve, and then I thought about that party, and then I thought about the state of this country and the division that the devil has been able to drive wedges in between blacks and whites and Jewish people and policemen and all the people. It doesn't need to be like that. And Steve was an example of that. That's one of the things that stands out to me is that. So that'll stay with me forever. And did I say I had one more story? Hang on a second, I'm getting a little choky here. I've been laughing the whole time thinking about all the stuff we used to do, but for some reason now I'm getting a little emotional. But and I'm trying to remember the story. The 6 o'clock club. So Steve got tossed on there for borrowing some M&Ms from the bookstore, and then I got tossed on there along with, I don't remember who else it was. It was about 6 of us. I missed curfew. So Craig Kirkland sitting out there, he was amongst the deviants that was on this. Who? Litton, you on there too? You sorry mug. And so we're on there running. So the punishment is to meet at the stadium at 6 o'clock in the morning. I think, was it Monday morning? Or 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock Monday morning. Ooh, I got another story you probably don't know about. And so we'd get down there, and you have different coaches, and some of them were butts, and some of them weren't quite as bad. Coach Harper wasn't that bad. We went down there to run. So Steve was part of that group, and Jeff Litton and Craig Kirkland and whoever else was out there. And so, like one time we went down there, and Coach Harper's sitting in his Cadillac down there, And we could see the cigarette burning inside the car, and we walked up there. It was freezing cold. We had to walk from the dorm all the way down to the stadium, and it was in the winter. It was towards the end of the season. And Coach Harper rolled down his window, and he goes, you think I'm getting out of this car and running you? He goes, get your blankety blanks back to your dorm, and you better not tell Coach Ford you didn't have to run. But the other guys that ran us made up for it. Like Buddy King, he was ruthless. So we got ran in the 6 o'clock club. So at the end of the season, and this is the 81 season. This is Steve's freshman year, I'm pretty sure, and my redshirt freshman year. So we've won all our games. Everybody's happy as a clam, and we're eating a victory dinner, a victory supper at the dining hall. We had lobster and steaks and all this great food if we won, and we'd won every single game that year. And so I think we had 2 games left, and Steve's like, hey, he goes, look at Coach Ford over there. He looks pretty happy right now. We've won all our games, and he goes, I think it's time, that you go approach him and ask him if he can stop this punishment now, because we've already ran 9 weeks in a row or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And so we had 2 games left other than the Orange Bowl. We had to play Maryland and South Carolina or somebody. And so I walk over, and Coach Ford's all happy, we've won all the games. And I say, hey, Coach, we're all talking, the 6 o'clock club. And he's like, what's the 6 o'clock club? I said, those guys that got a little out of line and you punished us, you make us run every Monday morning. He goes, oh, yeah. And I said, well, we were thinking that maybe you could slack off on the punishment. And I've been talking to Steve, and because we've worked real hard and we feel like we've paid our dues. And Coach Ford said, yeah, you guys you've ran all year. He goes, okay, run next week, and then you're done. And I'm thinking to myself, that's only one time, which that's better than nothing. So I go back to the table. That's only 1 week we got out of. And I tell Steve, and he's like, what? Are you kidding me? And I said, well, why didn't you go up there and negotiate with him? Because he was all upset that I didn't get it cut all the way off. But anyway, that was a funny, looking back on it, that was funny. I mean, let me tell you one of the things that we had to do. We had to carry cinder blocks, if I'm not mistaken. And we only did the bottom level we didn't do the same thing every week, but in that stadium on the bottom level, it's pretty far from the field up to the top of the bottom level. So you'd have to walk up and down and over, and up and down and over, carrying a cinder block in each hand. And it doesn't so much get your legs, because your legs are in shape and your lower back's in pretty good shape from doing squats and practicing and all that stuff. And but your forearms, carrying those blocks, it was hard. I don't even know why I'm telling you all this, but anyway, so Stephen, we enjoyed those times together in the 6 o'clock club. And one last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to be done. I got one more piece of scripture to read, and it's Romans chapter 10. Let me find Romans here. Hang on. There it is. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because I know every single person here loves Steve like crazy, just like I did. And I know he loved every one of you as much or more than you loved him. And so I don't know if anybody here needs to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I know that Steve would want every single person here to know how he got where he's at right now, and that's in heaven. And the way you get to heaven is this is the simple way to get to heaven. And it's in chapter 10 of Romans, if you want to read it, if you haven't read it before. And it's verse 9 through 11, and it says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. For the scripture says, everyone who believes in him will not be put to shame. That's all you got to do. You don't have to memorize 50,000 verses. You don't have to go to church 1,000 times. You don't have to do a bunch of push-ups. You don't have to do anything but believe that. And you will go to heaven and be with Jesus. Just like the guy that was nailed up next to him, that he said you'll be in paradise with me when in a few minutes. So anyway, I think, Steve didn't tell me this, but I just think that he'd want people that don't know that to know that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to me. I love you all, and take care.
Thank you, Reed. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate those words. Appreciate you coming out and speaking. Thank you, Coach Ford. Also, appreciate you coming out and speaking. I don't know anything about that 6 o'clock club. I was good, man. I don't know anything about that.
Some of them are smart enough not to get caught.
Oh.
Now, the ones that weren't very smart, they got caught.
Yeah, I never got caught doing anything. Just milk and cookies. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Okay. All right. Well, again, we're having such a wonderful time. It's a blessing to be out here. But please, ma'am, please, sir, if you want to give Carrie or Beth or any of the family members a message, please, when we adjourn from here, go back there and see my man, Greg Gaines, and you can record a special video message to the family. We're going to make a tape of this. That was my other surprise that I told him I was going to have it worked out. So we're going to make a tape of this. They could be able to play it for as long as they want to. And so if you want to say something to them without coming up here and speaking in front of people, like, again, I know some people sometimes have a little problem speaking in front of people. That's fine. But yeah, go back there and give them a short video message. That we would definitely appreciate that. Okay. All right, we got one more song. Now again, I told y'all this woman can sing now. I told you that now. So she's gonna take us out with one more song, and then we're gonna come up and we'll hear something from the families real quick, and then I'll close the program today. But yeah, again, put your hands together for the inspirational sounds of Wanda Johnson.
I love it when things come together, whether it's in my own mind or whether it's, especially when I know it's something that is beyond me. When something comes together and I know that it's beyond us, it's like, I call them God kisses. And when I was thinking about singing, I always want to sing something that is going to be appropriate for the event that I'm going to be singing at, right? We're taught this in school, whether it's public speaking or whatever, know your audience, right? But what seemed more important to me, it seems like, you know what, I'm just going to stop talking. I'm going to sing this song, and hopefully you guys will see why I believe this is like a God kiss, because we have heard this word spoken today at this platform over and over and over. So I hope that you enjoy it. I'm going to start this over because I had the volume down. The good Lord put me here to sing, not to be a techie person. Ramblers in the wilderness, we can't find what we need. We get a little restless from the searching, get a little worn down in between. Like a bull chasing the matador, is a man left to his own schemes. Everybody needs someone beside them, shining like a lighthouse from the sea. Brother, let me be your shelter, never leave you all alone. I can be the one you call when you're low. Brother, let me be your fortress from the night winds driving on. Be the one to light the way, bring you home. place down in the desert now. There's a chain wrapped around my heart. I dropped my keys where my failures were. Now my hands don't reach that far. I wasn't made for rivalry. I can't make it through this world alone. I know that in my weakness he is strong, and it's his love that brings me home. Hey, brother, let me be your shelter. Never leave you all alone. I can be the one to call when you're low. Brother, let me be your fortress from the night winds driving on. Be the one to light the way, bring you home. And when you call, you need me near, asking where'd you go? Well, I'm right here. And on those days when the sky begins to fall, you are blood of my blood, and we can get through it all. Brother, let me be your shelter, never leave you all alone. I can be the one you call when you're low. Brother, let me be your fortress from the night winds driving on. Be the one to light the way, bring you home. Brother, let me be your shelter, never leave you all alone. I can be the one you call when you're feeling low. Brother, let me be your fortress from the night winds dragging on. Be the one to light the way, bring you home. Be the one to light the way, bring you home.
Amen, 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 amen. Thank you. Y'all give it up for Wanda again, man. Hey, I told you. She can go now. She can go. Appreciate it. Amen. That was such a blessing. All right. And again, ma'am and sirs, now we have a book. I think it's back here on this table. Carrie wants you to come sign that book before you leave. So if you didn't get a chance to do that on the way out, we got this place till 8 o'clock, so we're in good shape time-wise. And again, go see Greg. Give him a quick little video message, and that'll be something that they'll cherish for a long time, okay? Now, at this time, we want to hear from the family members. First, Steve's sister, Beth. Now, Beth, me and Tish was talking about that. Was it just you two? Okay, so Steve was the baby, right? Steve was the baby, and Beth is his older sister. And of course, I had a chance, and Coach Ford talked to her about Ralph, the daddy, and then the mama D. I had a chance to meet them and fellowship with them some. Ralph was probably, I had to tell you this, Bill. When I first met Ralph, y'all ever watch The Sopranos? When I first met Ralph, he looked like one of those mafia type guys in The Sopranos. Have you ever heard that, son? No, you never heard that? Okay. Ralph was the coolest dude, and Chuck alluded this to, when I met Ralph, I said, that's where Bert got that swag from right there. Ralph was the coolest dude, had his big old thick cigars, and man, he was cool. And then when I met Mom, D, well, D was fiery now. D was fiery now. She's run the roost now. She ruled it, so. But a wonderful family. So, spokesperson from Beth's family want to come up, or Beth, are you coming up? I think Beth is going to come up. All right, here's Beth. Go stand with her.
My support. All right. Oh, can everybody hear me? Oh, lower this? God. All right. I'm going to try to get through this. I'm not the best speaker, although my kids will tell you that I can speak to them at any time. But when it comes to something like this, it's very tough. First off, William and everybody that helped put this together, I want to thank you so much. It's really great to see all these people coming out to honor my brother. As you know, Stephen, as I always called him, I know you all had other names for him, but I always called him that, was a great man. He was kind and caring. Growing up, he was very protective of me. One time, and this is going to follow right into all the stories we've heard already tonight. One time I had a party while my parents were out of town, and one of our lovely neighbors called the police to report a riot on Ashland Drive. And when the cops came to the door, Stephen answered it, and he told them it was his party. And as we all know, Stephen can certainly get into enough trouble on his own. Didn't need to take the blame for this one. So, of course, I didn't let him. But we both had to go to the magistrate, needless to say. So, I always told him, though, as other have spoken tonight, he needed to be much better at not getting caught. He was very terrible at sneaking, or whatever you want to say. One time, or all the time, when I was home, and my dad, if he was home, because he traveled and so forth, if I missed curfew, I would hear all about it because he'd be sitting in the living room, of course, waiting for me. Stephen missed curfew almost always, but never got in trouble for it because my dad would say, the answer was, he doesn't have to worry about him because he can take care of himself if something happens. Which I suppose is right. He's big and strong. When he came to Clemson, I loved the times that I came down with my mom and got to watch him play. He was just awesome on that field. And he made me so proud to be his sister. Something that I should have told him much more often than I did. Over the years, as we lived far apart, we would see each other over the summers and occasionally on holidays, but we had great memories when we went to the beach with our parents. And my kids just loved being with Uncle Steve because he made them laugh, because he was just like a giant kid. Carrie, you guys made a perfect couple, and he loved you so much and cared for you. He treated you just like a queen. And he was a great dad to all the kids. And I said on that day in September, thank you so much for loving my brother and being by his side. Sorry. I know right now Ralph and Dee are looking down on us and feeling very thankful for all of you here and the people that made were a big part of his life. So Steve, here's to you. I really miss you. You will always be in my heart. And you know that I want you to know that I was, and I am still very proud to be your sister and you to be my brother. I love you. Thank you all for coming.
Awesome. Excellent.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Beth. Anybody else from the family? Devin, Clay, anybody else? Megan, you good? Yeah. All right. Anybody else before we close? Again, appreciate everybody coming out this evening. Thanks again for hearing and sharing a lot of stories about Steve. Again, like Chuck said, he's always going to be in our heart and always going to be in our mind. So, yeah, we appreciate everything that was said today. Again, please, ma'am, please, sir, take time to go back and give a quick video message if you like, but definitely sign the book. And we got, according to what I've been told, we got about 45 minutes to kind of fellowship a little bit, so we don't have to rush out of here. But again, I've always been taught, leave the scene as clean or better than you found it. So make sure you tidy up, take care of it. If you have any empty bottles, anything, just put them in the trash can again. But again, thank you, all the speakers. Thank you, Ms. Wanda, for blessing us with song. Coach Ford, you just don't know how much I appreciate you coming out today and speaking with us, hanging out with us. Chuck, Reed, got Mr. Billy D back there. Y'all don't know we had a Billy D at Clemson, did you? Bill DeAndre, so appreciate him coming out. And again, appreciate all of y'all for coming out and celebrating. This was a heck of a celebration. I really enjoyed this. Beth, I told you not to have that waterwork, though. You had me crying up here. Good Lord, girl. But we appreciate you. Again, thank you for coming. Wish everybody traveling grace back to their prospective homes. Again, take time to give a video message and make sure you sign the book. So without anything, Billy D wants to say anything? Oh yeah, we got Billy D coming up here. All right, Billy D, Bill DeAndre.
I'm not gonna keep you long because I know that everything's been said about Steve. He was a tough, hard-nosed football player. But originally, I'm from Bethel Park, where Steve grew up. I grew up there. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to coach for Coach Ford, who I learned a great deal about people, not only football, and had the opportunity to live in the dorm with these guys. But I just want one quick story. I was getting ready to go home. I first came as a graduate assistant and lived in the dorm. And I was getting ready to go home for Christmas, and Steve asked me if I was going home for Christmas, and he wanted to ride home with me. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to have company. It's probably about a 9-hour drive. So at that time, I had an old 1965 Chevy Bel Air. And, you know, Steve said, look, if you want me to drive, I'll be glad to drive. So a few hours into the trip, you know, we switched over and I fell asleep. And the next thing I know, I woke up and Steve must have been going 100 miles an hour. That Chevy Bel Air steering wheel was vibrating. And I said, Steve, you can pull over and get some gas. I think I'll drive the rest of the way. So he was a great guy. Thank you.
All right, again, last chance. Anybody else want to come up to the mic? You just feel free before we stand adjourned. Again, appreciate everybody participating. Appreciate you being a part of Carrie's and Steve's lives and the children's lives. So we really had a good time today. I think this was good. This was good. You know, when your loved one transitions out of your life physically, you know, there's a lot of pain associated with that. But when you get a chance to celebrate them, always remember them. This is good. This is real good. So appreciate you coming again. Please, ma'am, please, sir. See Greg back there. Sign the book. Everybody be safe. Take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers. Appreciate you. Thank you.